It is incredibly naive to believe that height is solely born out of the length and durability of your bones. In fact, it is a multifactorial equation spanning at least 7 different subjects in my estimation, or systems is a better way to describe it. Of course, some of these you might be familiar with from spinal decompression, things like inversion therapy, inversion tables, disc hydration. It's incredible to me how dehydrated the average man is, and unknowingly so. But in this video, we're going to be speaking about TRE, which is known as trauma release exercises, which have the potential to change these 5 systems, which will directly influence the height of your body. Pelvic posture, rib cage alignment, muscular tension being a key factor in that equation, fascia, and of course your nervous system. You need to understand that trauma is a compression system. I know trauma is a dirty word for a lot of men, but this is the red pill. This is the uncomfortable truth in its original description, which is this. If you are a man watching this video, you have varying degrees of intense trauma, from low intensity trauma to high intensity trauma in your very tissues. Key traumatic points for most men being around their most powerful center, which is their sexual and creative center. So trauma is a compression system. When you experience chronic stress, the body protects you by contracting and compressing and tightening, especially around the diaphragm, jaw, neck, psoas, iliacus, and the pelvic floor. This is known as a protective state. You can kind of see the posture of this individual comparatively to this individual here is a lot more compressed and contracted. And it does this to shield the organism from the threat of danger. Unfortunately, living in the modern world in 2026 as I record this and look out the beautiful window at the chaotic, controlled chaos that is Bangkok, Thailand, we don't live in a world whereby we need to be worrying about a tiger around every corner. And unfortunately, due to the rise of social media, inflammatory content, and also sexually degenerate content, men are constantly living in a protective state without even knowing about it. That is the most delusional thing. Now we're going to analyze this particular posture and where you are 100% guarding tight and in that compressed and contracted state. Let's begin with the psoas and the iliacus. So you can kind of see here, this is the pelvic bowl. The psoas muscle attaches from the lumbar vertebrae all the way down into the head of the femur. So you can imagine if this is particularly tight, we get this sway back kind of posture. This is an over-exaggerated posture for our purposes here, but I promise you, unless you are an individual who is stretching their psoas, mobilizing their psoas and their hips, their adductors, their pelvic floor, every single night before bed, and that might sound dramatic to you, Joseph, why do I need to stretch every single night before bed? Well, you're spending 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours sat down with the psoas is in a contracted and shortened position anyway. So 8 to 9 hours versus half an hour to 45 minutes stretching and mobilizing the psoas before you go to bed, yeah, it's necessary. If it's not optional for you, you're going to look like this individual, this sway back, anterior pelvic tilt, and it's almost as if the guts are spilling out over the brim of the pelvic bowl. If this is horrendously contracted, you are compressing and tightening this pelvic bowl area, which is taking at least 2 inches off your height. I'm deadly serious when I talk about this. This is the key area for most people. It's the sexual center, it's the creative center, it's the seat of all masculine power.